He's Tony Dungy from Football Night in America, of course, former coach. And your thoughts on when you heard that there was a settlement, Coach?
Well, I think the settlement is good because now we can hopefully move forward and keep progressing. You know, whenever you have a settlement, it means that both sides are somewhat happy, but nobody's totally happy. And I think that's what we have. And I think the point that you just made, Dan, is the correct one. We know a lot more. We're doing a lot better. There are things that could we have done better in the past? Who knows? Because we didn't have all that information. We certainly treat concussions and injuries as a whole differently now than when I played in the 70s. So I think that's just part of progress and growing up, really.
But when you coach, Tony, whether it was a defensive coordinator or a head coach with the Colts and the Buccaneers, how often would you have players who lied to get back in and they had concussion-like symptoms?
Well, Dan, that happened all the time. Guys want to play. It's part of their makeup. And I can tell you, we've talked about it in the past, I never had a player come to me and say, the doctors say I'm ready, but I don't feel good. I'm not ready to play, but they've cleared me. Never happened in my coaching career. Now, it did happen many times. Guys come to me and say, the doctor won't let me play. They're not, but I'm good to go, Coach. Put me in. I can go. So that's just the mentality of the players. Now, certainly we've done a better job of educating. We know more about it now, but I think that's always going to be there because guys want to play.
Were you a part of this lawsuit as a former NFL player?
I was not, and I saw Roger Staubach's quotes that, you know, he had several concussions, but he feels good, and he kind of understood the risk and didn't feel he was deceived, and that's how I was. I think I had two while I was playing, but, you know, it was part of the game, and I understood that, and we're moving forward. But by the same token, I've seen guys who have had some problems with memory loss and that kind of thing. And so I think it'll be a fair situation in the long run, and hopefully the guys who really need the help can get taken care of with this settlement. And guys like me who don't need the help aren't really a part of it.
I don't know when they started giving benefits, lifetime benefits to players, but I said that's my bigger concern with the players themselves, that you got guys who can't get out of bed. Is there a certain amount of service time that you put in, and then the NFL will provide lifetime health benefits?
You know, I'm not sure how that works. I do know back in the 70s when we were negotiating the new agreements back then, everyone only wanted to talk about free agency. I was a young player at the time, and when you started talking about long-term health benefits and pension, you got shouted down in the meetings. It was just, hey, let's get the money and free agency, and if we make enough money, we'll be in good shape. And I think that has changed, and people are now thinking, both sides, the players and the league, thinking about long-term health and long-term benefits a little bit more, and that's a positive.
You have a son playing college football.
I do.
You have some little ones at home. Would you let them play football, knowing what you know?
I would, and you know, I think you have to be careful, and there are people that are more at risk to concussions, and if you get a couple, you know, you have to consider, is it worth continuing to play, just like with any other injury. You do know the risk. Football is a fun game. It's an enjoyable game. There are some risks in it. I went through and played 4 years in college, 3 years in the NFL, got hurt some, but, you know, I'm doing well. I was back in Pittsburgh this weekend and saw one of my teammates, L.C. Greenwood, who was not doing well. And, you know, you do understand that there are risks.
What do you mean L.C.'s not doing well?
Just back and leg injuries, having trouble walking with a cane. And the last time I saw him a year ago, he was actually doing much better, but really looked like he had slowed down and was telling me about some surgeries that were upcoming for him. So it is, you know, it's part of the deal, but there were also, I saw him at church, and there were also other people I hadn't seen in church in a long while who had nothing to do with football that weren't doing well either. So I think part of that is life as well.
This has changed the game, this lawsuit.
You know, I don't know about that.
Well, the way it's officiated, you know, the attention, medical attention to concussions, the research on it, how players hit. So, I mean, this is long This
Well,
is long
hopefully
term.
it's changing for the better. But again, I can remember in 1977, however many years ago that was, Jack Lambert saying, hey, Pete Rozelle is changing the game, and the hitting is going out of it, and it's a sissified game now. So I think there's nothing new under the sun, and we'll make the adjustments. Hopefully, make the game safer. I don't think you can ever take the hitting out of football. You can never take the danger out of it. But that's part of it. That's part of the draw, and hopefully we can make it as safe as we can and take care of people in the long term.
Well, what was practice like? You had the great Steelers of the 70s with all of those guys on defense. I mean, how violent was practice?
Practices then were totally different than they are now. We practiced in pads every day on AstroTurf every day. We hit live on Fridays. It was physical. Much more so now than it is now, and that was just part of the game, and that's what we knew. As you say, we've kind of changed. We've changed in terms of training and all that, but that's another thing. No one had personal trainers. No one trained 12 months a year like these guys do now.
But you had Mean Joe Green, you had Mel Blount, Lambert, L.C. Greenwood. I mean, you had some scary guys on that.
We did, and back then, Dan, there was no practice squad. There was at times, I think, when I came in, 43 players. So our practice squad, our look squad on defense was 2 starting defensive backs and 2 backup guys. So you would have Mel Blount going against John Stallworth in practice every single day.
Could you hit Bradshaw?
No, you couldn't hit the quarterback.
Oh, okay. But
everybody else was fair game. There were some explosive hits in practice, but people felt like they were just getting ready for the game. And you took care of yourself, and you didn't blow people up. But it was, we didn't know what a non-padded practice was. I never heard of that until I left the Steelers. So, it's different now, and I think it is better.
Talking to Tony Dungy, Football Night in America. A couple of preseason questions there for you, Tone, before I let you go. What has stood out the most? A player, either good or bad, with preseason? Anything?
Well, I was really impressed with the Indianapolis Colts. I thought they would have trouble this year kind of matching what they did last year, but their energy level, their defense, I think they know a lot more about what they're doing defensively, and Pep Hamilton has come in with a very physical running game to go with Luck, and I think they're going to be good. But I always kind of hesitate watching in the preseason. My first year at Minnesota on defense, we went the whole preseason, didn't give up a touchdown. We gave up 2 field goals in 4 games, and I said, we're going to have the greatest defense in history. Nobody can score on us. The first drive of the regular season, Green Bay marched right down the field and scored a touchdown, walked right through us. So preseason doesn't always translate to the regular season.
Ever keep a player because you liked him?
Yes. And, you just kind of believe in guys, and you hope they do well, and they show you enough, and you say, you know what, this guy is not quite as good as player B right now, but I believe in him, and he's going to be a pleasure to coach, and he's going to do everything that we ask. And so you try to stay away from that, but absolutely coaches do that.
Well, I think you got that situation with Tim Tebow in New England. I just don't think he can play quarterback, but I think Belichick wants to say I'm smarter than everybody else, but it just, I don't know. I get that.
And when the owner comes out and says, I'm pulling for him, I really want him on my team, that makes you feel good as a player. You think, I got a chance if I got Bob Kraft in my corner.
Another thing, the Rolling Stone article that came out about Aaron Hernandez, and the Patriots have denounced some of the information in there. Here's the one thing that was troubling, Tony. Maybe you could help me. If it's as it was reported, Hernandez goes to Bill Belichick and says, look, my life could be in danger. And Bill says, why don't you get an apartment away from your friends, away from where you're living? At what point do the Patriots say, maybe we need to turn this over to police? Maybe we need to keep a closer eye on Aaron Hernandez since we just gave him that long-term contract extension?
Well, even if you hadn't given him an extension, if that information is true and that does come to you, you have security. NFL has security. Every team has a security office in their home city. So in cases like that, we would always go to NFL security, notify them. We'd have our local law enforcement people on, and we've had those cases before in Indianapolis and Tampa.
Wait, you had people in danger?
Yeah, guys have been threatened, trying to be extorted, that type of thing, or there's just some issues. Hey, here's someone in town that got a long-time grudge against me. I'm concerned about this. Here's what's happening. That happens all the time, and that's what NFL security is for. So I would be shocked if the Patriots did not do that. And matter of fact, I'm sure they did.
Should Robert Griffin play in Week 1?
I think that's up to the doctors. I was one of those guys who said, Adrian Peterson, you got to put him on a pitch count. You got to give him 10 carries a game to get him started. No way you can come off an ACL like that and play running back in the NFL, and he goes for 2,000 yards.
But could you get Robert Griffin to play differently, Tony?
I don't know that he'll ever play totally differently. That's who he is. That's what makes him good. He's got to learn when it's important and how to take care of himself, but that's his game. And so you can't go out there and say, hey, Robert, we're going to play you, but stay away from everything. Don't get hit. That's not going to work. He's got to play his game, and he's got to be ready to play his game, and that's where I would be as a coach. If Robert, are you ready to play your game? If I see that in practice and you feel that way, then we're going to play you. But I'm not going to put you out there and say, don't play your game. So if you can't play your game week 1, let's wait till week 10.
I'll see you Wednesday in Denver.
Looking forward to it. It's going to be a great year.
Thank you, buddy. Tony Dungy,
right.
Football Night in America.
The Dan Patrick Show, weekday mornings on Audience.